So here's Charlie Brown as he looks today. And here are some examples of what Charlie Brown used to look like. Look at the upper left corner. This is what he looked like when Charles Schulz first created him. He had quite a large head, didn't he? And he's changed quite a bit over the years. Now, here's a picture of Lucy as we know her today. And let's look at how Lucy has changed. Look at that top left corner. She looks very sweet and innocent, doesn't she? She was introduced as a toddler back in the 50s. But we know she has changed quite a bit over the years. Now, here is my example. And so I'm going to guide you step by step, and I think it'll be fun. So we're going to start with Charlie Brown, and then we'll draw Lucy. So I'm going to start with my sketchbook horizontal or side to side. And I'm going to be drawing Charlie Brown first. And I'm going to put him on the right side. Okay, so I'm going to start with the head. And I'm just going to draw a basic circle. Whoops, that's too big. Maybe about this size. Circle for the head. Okay, and if you want to draw a line right about center, very lightly, because you want to erase it, right underneath that line on the sides is where we're going to put his ears. So one little curved line on the left, and kind of a backwards C over here. Okay, his head is a little bit turned, so we're seeing more of this ear right here. Okay, so if you want to start with that, if you need to pause the video, you can go ahead and pause the video and draw that. And next we're going to draw his nose, and his nose is going to be like basically a letter C, and it's going to be right above the line in the center. So the bottom of the C is going to be on this line. Something right like this. Okay, and then right next to that letter C, which is his nose, we're going to draw an eye here, little circle, and an eye here on both sides of the letter C. It might look funny right now, but when we add Sharpie and make everything a little bit thicker, it will look, it won't look so funny. And if you want to go ahead and erase this line now, you can also do that. So he has like one curly hair right here on his forehead, and it's just kind of a wiggly, curvy line like that. And then you can go ahead and give him some little eyebrows, just like that. In fact, this eyebrow, I think, is connected usually to this squiggly line. Okay, and then let's give him a big smile. So I would start it right about at the bottom of the ear and end it over here at the bottom of the ear. So just a big smile like that. Okay, if you need to pause the video, you can pause the video. Otherwise, we're going to start on the rest of his body. And let's just do basic shapes first. Okay, so let's give him a little bit of a neck. And then we're going to draw two lines that are slightly curved. This one in front is a little bit curved, a little bit more curved than this one. But they both curve out just a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to make a straight line across the bottom. So two curved lines. We're just doing a basic shape right now. Two curved lines down and a line across the bottom. So now that we have the basic shape, we're going to add his arms and some details. So let's draw this arm first. We just want to draw a sleeve, which is basically like a letter L, capital letter L, and this is the other side of it. Okay, and then his hand, or his arm coming out, and his hand, he's drawn with only 3 fingers. So here's a line coming down for his arm, and then we're just going to draw 1, 2, 3. 3 fingers like that. Okay. And over here, we just see a little hint of his other arm because he's standing a little bit to the side. It's almost like a profile, but not really. He's looking at us, so it's not really a profile, but his body is turned a little bit. And then you can close this off with a little line. And then we see just a little hint of this arm. Okay, so that's all we're going to draw on that hand. So this is his shirt, and it actually should end right below his fingertips. So I'm going to move that line a little bit. So I erased the other line and I moved it up just a little bit. And then we're going to make his shorts. So just come down a little bit further and draw another line underneath. This is going to end up being solid black. Okay. And so we have his shorts, and now we have to add his collar and his famous pattern on his shirt. It's like a zigzag or a chevron pattern. Or you might think of it as a letter W. So down and up like that. And then underneath it like this. So he has a black zigzag stripe on his shirt, just like that. Don't press hard with your pencil. And now his collar. So first let's start with a letter V. Right there. And then we're going to draw another V right here, like that. And then we're just going to do almost like a letter W and close it off. Just kind of creating a little collar there. And then over here, you can just draw a little line coming outside of his shirt a little bit like that, and maybe just curve it in. Something like that. These characters look like they'd be easy to draw, but they're a little more difficult than they first appear. Okay, they're simple characters, yet it's a little bit complicated to draw them, and it's hard to draw them exactly like Charles Schulz drew them, because it's almost like trying to forge someone's signature. You know how somebody signs their name? Well, have you ever tried to sign someone else's name exactly how they sign their name? It's really difficult because everyone has their own unique style, right? So the way Charles Schulz drew these characters, all these little movements he did with his pencil and his marker, they're very unique to him. So it's hard for us to duplicate it, but we're doing our best, right? All right, so let's work on his legs and his shoes, his feet. Okay, so let's do the one that's in front first. We're just going to draw 2 lines coming almost straight down, but they do angle out just a little bit. Just a little bit. And then the shape of his shoe is basically like a big oval like this. although the bottom is more straight. Okay. And then we're going to add a sock, and it's basically just a line across and kind of angles down a little bit. And you can make this line here, it's not really a smooth line. If you want to erase it, the top of his shoe, it's a little bit crooked and wavy, like that. And then let's go ahead and draw his other leg. So just another straight line. Maybe I want to move it over a little bit. In fact, well, I guess that's fine. And then his other shoe, you can just do a big loop like this because we're not seeing the whole shoe. And then we need to close it off with a little curved line, and you can draw another little curved line for his sock. And if you just want to do some loops like this, it looks like his shoes have laces. Okay, so if you need to pause the video, you can. Otherwise, we are done drawing him. And now I'm going to move to Sharpie. So before you trace everything in Sharpie, look over your drawing and decide if you need to change anything. And when I trace over my lines, I'm actually going to trace over them twice because I want the lines to be heavy and thick. Okay, and I also want them to be a little bit uneven. Part of the charm of the Peanuts characters is that the lines are not always perfect. Sometimes they're a little crooked or a little uneven. And that's the way they're supposed to be. That's the way he drew them intentionally. Okay? So we don't want everything to be perfect. Of course, it's hard for us to ever be perfect, right? Because we're human. But I just wanted to show you as I'm outlining, I'm going to go over everything twice. So it's a little bit heavier and a little bit thicker. Okay. So there's once, and if I go over it twice and make it a little thicker, even better. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and keep outlining my Charlie Brown. Why don't you pause the video using your regular black Sharpie and you can outline yours. So I've outlined everything except for the design on his shirt. I did fill in his shorts solid black, but I just wanted to show you that when I fill in this design on his shirt, I'm going to leave some open spaces. I'm not going to fill it in solid. I'm going to leave some white showing. Okay, and again, that's part of the charm of the characters. When things are filled in, they're not always filled in solid black. Sometimes there's some white left over. And I'm also going to make it a little heavier right here, like a shadow underneath his chin. Okay. So go ahead and fill that in, but maybe leave a few white spots like I did. And then you can go ahead and erase all your extra pencil lines. So there's our Charlie Brown, and all he needs now is color. But before we add any color, let's draw Lucy. So I'm going to draw Lucy right next to him over here. So I'm going to draw another circle right here about the same size, very lightly. Don't press hard with your pencil. And we're going to add a little wavy curve here. So starting about here, we're going to curve down and out like this. And we're going to erase this part of the circle. Okay, so it's just a wavy line. And we only see one ear on Lucy in this pose, and it's going to be on this side of her face. So again, why don't we very lightly draw a line right in the center, and then starting at that line and coming down. So underneath the line, we're going to just draw a letter C, just like that. And now above the line, we're going to draw a backwards letter C for her nose. And for her eyes, instead of circles, we're just going to draw little lines like that, 2 little lines. Notice where they are, right next to the nose, kind of a little bit higher than the middle of the C, not above it. And then we're just going to draw a big smile on her face too. So starting about level with the bottom of the ear, and we're just going to draw a big smile coming all the way across the face like that. Okay. So if you have to pause the video, you can go ahead and pause the video. Otherwise, we're going to start to draw her hair. So right about here, so it's above her eye, this right eye. If you want to put your pencil by her eye and kind of come straight up, we're going to draw a big oval. That's one of her curls. And then maybe right about here, I'm just going to draw a big curved line that comes out and down like that. Okay, and then I'm going to erase this line, and I'm going to erase what's inside the curl. Just like that. We can also erase this part of the curl. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video and you can work on that. So I realized I made this a little too fat, so I erased it and I made it skinnier. So if you followed my example and you made yours a little too fat too, go ahead and make it a little skinnier, because I want this to be a little skinnier. In fact, I want her smile to be a little smaller. So that's why we always want to draw lightly. We don't want to press hard with our pencil, right? Because we want to be able to change things. Because we always make mistakes. We don't always do things just the way we want them the first time, right? All right, so now we're going to add 3 curve lines. So coming up from the ear, we're going to do 1 coming up. That's 1. And now 2 across her forehead. 1, 2. And then over here, you can just curve down the other way. So it almost looks like a scalloped line across her forehead, but there's only 2 curves, and then there's a big curve right here. Okay, and then we're going to make a big curl here, and we're going to make one on the other side too. Just like that. So is it harder than you thought, or easier than you thought, or somewhere in the middle? I think it's pretty hard. I just realized I need to make my eyes a little smaller too. I think I was making her face too big. So I'm going to make those lines a little bit smaller. There we go. That's much better. Okay, now she needs a skinny little neck. So 2 lines. You can have them curving out just a little if you want. And now we're going to start with the basic shape of her body, which is very similar to Charlie Brown's. If you want to close this off first with a little line, you can. And then 2 angled lines. They can be slightly curved if you want. And close it off with a slightly curved line at the bottom. Okay, so just like we made this shape over here, it's basically the same, only a little bit shorter. And we're going to add a skirt. So we're going to come out on both sides like this and add a skirt. Okay, so if you have to pause the video, why don't you go ahead and work on that. So we're making pretty good progress, aren't we? All right, let's work on her sleeves. So she has puffy sleeves on her dress, starting right about here. If you just want to come out and make like a circle here and a circle here. They're not really circles, they're a little bit more boxy. So if you want to draw the circle first and then turn it into kind of a boxy shape, like this. What I mean by boxy is by making more straight lines than curved lines. Okay, and then you can just close it with a little curved line right here. And then we're going to add a loop here and a loop here. And we're just going to draw 2 little curved lines like this. And it makes it look like her arms are behind her back. Okay, I'm going to make this puffy sleeve a little smaller. Something like that. Okay, and then we just need a collar. And the collar just has 4 little loops like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, almost like petals on a flower. And you can put a little zigzag line like this and maybe another straight line underneath it for a little detail on the dress. There's also kind of a crooked line here and here. So those are just the details on the dress. So once you have that drawn, now all we have to do are the legs and the shoes. So since she's facing us and her legs are together and her feet are kind of, one's going to the left, one's going to the right, it's going to be a little easier to draw, I think, than Charlie Brown's feet. So 2 lines straight down like this. And then divide them in the center, just like that. So you have 1, 2, 3 lines, and this line should be right in the center of her body. And then you can close it with a slightly curved line at the bottom, like that. And then her shoes are the same shape as Charlie Brown's. They're like flat ovals. So one's going to the left and one's going to the right. And they can meet and touch in the middle like that. So why don't you pause the video and you can catch up to this part. So we're almost done. All we have to do is add socks. You can just add a curved line here and a little curved line here. And the details on her shoes. There's an angled line here and an angled line here. And then this is going to get colored in solid black with a little white showing. So once you've drawn that, we're all done drawing Lucy. And now we're ready for the Sharpie. Okay, so we're gonna use our regular black Sharpie and we're gonna outline just like we did Charlie Brown. Now, make sure you don't want to change anything before you start outlining, but if you're happy with the way everything looks, you can start outlining and you can double up your lines just like we did with Charlie Brown. Okay, so I'm gonna outline mine. You can pause the video and you can outline yours. So now that I'm done outlining in Sharpie, I'm gonna erase all my extra pencil lines. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video and erase all your pencil lines. So I erased all my pencil lines and now we're just gonna fill in her hair and this middle part of her shoes. But like I said, we wanna leave some white. So if you actually want to just draw a line right here and right here, we're basically gonna keep that top part white. See what I did? I just kind of drew like a stripe at the top and a stripe on the edge of this curl. So when I color in now with my Sharpie, I'm not going to color in there. I'm going to leave that white, okay? Most of this will be solid black, but we're leaving that white, and you can actually color a little bit right here. Okay, and down here, if you just want to leave maybe a couple spots like this, and maybe a couple, I'm just drawing like a couple oval shapes, and I'm gonna leave a little bit of white showing like that. Okay, so it's not totally colored in. And now in between her shoes, I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm gonna color it in, but I'm gonna leave a little bit of white. Now, it looks like I'm almost being sloppy, but it's not sloppy. It's just trying to make it look kind of whimsical and have a few white spots showing. Okay, so once you've done that, oh, I also colored a little bit with Sharpie under her chin like I did with Charlie Brown for shadow under her chin. And I colored a little bit darker right here underneath her sleeves for shadow. So now all we need is color. So the colors of their clothes are pretty iconic, which means, you know, they've been this way for a long, long time. And sometimes you see them in different clothes, but this dress that Lucy's wearing and this shirt that Charlie Brown is wearing is, they're kind of famous. So I'm just going to use regular Crayola colors. So for Lucy's dress, I'm going to use sky blue. Okay. For the skin tone, I think I'm going to use peach. That's probably the closest I have. And Lucy's shoes are going to stay white, but her socks are also going to be sky blue. Okay, so I'm going to work on coloring Lucy. If you want to pause the video and work on her, you can do that, and then come back and I'll tell you the colors I'm using for Charlie Brown. So Lucy's done, and now I'm going to color Charlie Brown, and I'm going to use that same peach color, and I'm not pressing very hard, maybe just a number 2 pressure for the skin tone. Don't forget the neck and the hands and the legs. Okay, and then his famous shirt, I'm going to use golden yellow, and I am going to press kind of hard, like a number 3 pressure, so it's nice and vibrant. And you can even color in those spots in the stripe that we left white, like that. Okay, and his socks can be yellow. And this won't take very long to color. And his shoes, if you have taupe, if you have a Crayola set that has taupe, T-A-U-P-E, taupe, that is like the perfect color. And I'm pressing kind of hard. If you don't have taupe, you can use light brown. Okay, so that's Charlie Brown's colors, and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm all done. So here's what mine looks like now that I'm all done, and I hope you had fun drawing with me today.